Drizit has found that Chinese-owned Sino-Metals Leach Zambia copper mine has covered up the extent of a disastrous toxic spill that happened near the northern city of Kitwe. Now, this toxic spill polluted a major river in that area. According to the reports, the environmental cleanup company, which was contracted by Sino-Metals Leach Zambia to investigate the accident, says its 2-month investigation found that the disaster resulted in the release of 1.5 million tons of toxic material. Now, that's at least 30 times more than Sino-Metals admitted to at the time. For more on this, we're joined on the line by our correspondent in Zambia, Arthur Sikopo Davies. A very good afternoon to you, Arthur. Good to have you with us once again.
Good afternoon, and thanks for having me.
So perhaps let's backtrack a little bit, and if you could give us a bit of background on the dam collapse that occurred earlier on this year. It was February the 18th, and what impact this has had on the Kitwe River and the community.
Yes, so the impact, we'll start first from the time that the accident happened. So we didn't know, people didn't know that what really was happening. Even the locals there did not know what really was happening. Not until, I think, after some time when the mine authorities confirmed that was the tailings dams that had collapsed. So after collapse, I was on the ground and talked to people there and did meet people around there. So some of them were literally passing through the same, acidic water or the same, dangerous effluent which was coming from the mine with their feet. The water would, the same effluent would go into their water for drinking. And the place was quite smelly, and they could feel that itchiness on them. Not until the mine confirmed and the government moved in, and equally the minister confirmed. So people were not aware, not until it was confirmed that it was the tailings dams that had collapsed, and people had already, drank some water from there and all that. So then, when the water, when the effluent now went into the Kitwe River and the Mwambashi River, people started seeing fish dying off in massive, at massive scales. Fish dying off, other aquatic organisms dying off, and just their fields around there. Just 2 days after the whole incident happened, the fields were brown in terms of they were dry, because then they were green. And it was in the rainy season, and so the fields were dry. The grass, which was green, was brown. So everything was burnt by the same, acid. And it's only obviously by God's grace, that some people, survived that, incident. So when the water, when the affluent got into the Kitwe River and went down into other places, fish started dying off. Of course, government moved in and started spraying some lime. Just to try to mitigate that particular impact. Then fast forward, we've seen people around there demanding for compensation, and the government, of course, also trying to push the mine to compensate. But what they have been promised, and what government has instructed the mine to pay these people is what is considered to be meager. And because some people were getting as little as were supposed to get as little as 400 kwacha, which is just like I think about $8, so to say, in terms of compensation. So there has been this uproar that this money that people are being compensated is little, and we can't continue in this particular trajectory. And as we speak today, there are some 47 residents that have gone to court, demanding that they be compensated and other remedial measures be taken.
I mean, apart from the measures that you're speaking about now, this report that's been put together by Drizit, it claims that the spill severity was underrepresented by Sino when it was originally reported. They cited at least 1.5 million tons of pollutants as actually what went into the river. Can you take us through that report and how Sino-Metals Leach Zambia copper mine has reacted to these findings?
Yes. So initially, the figures that were given by Sino-Metals in the initial stages are said to be lower than what this particular company, had to, or they came up with after they were contracted. So this company was contracted by Sino-Metals to give a report, but we don't know what really transpired. Then we are told that they had to cut the contract that they gave. Sino-Metals had to cut the contract with this same company. So and that is how. Even this other, that is how their investigation in terms of the figures being quite higher than what was being said by Sino-Metals came to be known. So we don't know, maybe they had some disagreements themselves, and for Sino-Metals, of course, to just cut that particular contract which they gave to this particular company. So that is when everything now started being reviewed. But Sino-Metals has been approached by media locally and, of course, internationally. Sino-Metals has been declining to, comment further on that particular aspect. And they are saying that, those figures that the company which they themselves contracted are false. And they still stand by, the earlier figures, which they say that, it was just about 50 million liters that was spilled into the environment and, of course, into the water bodies. So at the moment, we seem to see even the government being not being so pushy on Sino-Metals itself.
And can you talk to us about that? Because that's quite peculiar. What has been the government's reaction? Have there been any fines meted out on Sino-Metals regarding this?
So, yes, the government had set some compensation figure, which they said was supposed to be. They were supposed to be paid 16 million kwacha. Let me just convert that into dollars. But they were supposed to compensate the people around there with 16 million kwacha. That is the amount which the government, through the Minister of Copper Belt and Mines, communicated to the media and, of course, to the mine entity. But this 16 million kwacha, when you divide it with the people that are affected, and especially the loss that they got, it is very little. Somebody could be getting somewhere around maybe $7 when they had planted a big field. So those were some of the concerns, and the government is being seen to be not to be so pushy on Sino-Metals, and some critics are saying that a government is not trying to do that because this is a Chinese company, and obviously government, because our country as Zambia is trying to restructure the debt with the Chinese. So they're not trying to push the Chinese into the corner, maybe for avoidance of jeopardizing the other arrangements in terms of debt paying. That is what some critics would say and some analysts would say. But we don't know how true that is. That is.
Arthur, we'll leave it at that for this afternoon and see, what environmental groups will be doing as far as this is concerned. But we thank you very much for that update. That's Arthur Sikopo Davies, our correspondent in Zambia. And quite uncanny, though, because Drizit, the company that was hired to conduct this research, their contract was terminated by Sino-Metals the day before their final report was due. And so, one can look at that situation and come to whatever conclusion they want to. But once again, Sino-Metals in Zambia disputing the magnitude of the impact that this burst wall has had on the toxicity that has now gone into the major rivers in Zambia. Takes us to 21 minutes after 4 p.m. Central African time. In just a moment, a conversation with Standard Bank. Vue d'Afrique.